It is Kenny from Kenny's Audiophile Record Reviews. Thank you very much for viewing my channel. As always, I appreciate it. To everybody worldwide, welcome to my video, and I appreciate you viewing as well all over the world. This is like I said, this is really a blessing to be able to talk records and audiophile stuff worldwide. What a truly great blessing. In this video, I'm gonna do a comparison between 3 LP sources and 3 digital sources of the Miles Davis album, Sketches of Spain. Yeah, I'm getting into that in this video. It's going to be pretty interesting, but before I get to that, grabbing the spotlight, what can I say? Billie Holiday. Man, you could say you can make a case for her being the greatest jazz singer ever. Billie Holiday. Lady in Satin, LP. I believe this is original. Well, there's a 2i stereo pressing of the record. Also, we have SACD, Billie Holiday, Lady in Satin. But like I said, during this video, I'm gonna compare 3 LP sources and 3 digital sources of the Miles Davis album, Sketches of Spain. And like I say during all my videos, and for all you serious audiophiles out there, this is a listening test, okay? Let me repeat myself. This is a listening test. It is not a scientific test. It is a test where I listen to these sources and determine which sound best to me on my system. Now, this can vary from system to system, to listener to listener. So we must keep those things in mind, that this is very objective. As I always say, these things are system dependent, system setup dependent, and ear dependent, and also personal opinion dependent, because we all have our personal opinions in terms of what good music should sound like. So we must take that into account. Again, this is a listening test, not a scientific test. Let's keep that in mind. Also, before I get started, the equipment I'm using during this test, the analog source is a Riga P8 turntable with an Feta 3 cartridge and a West phono stage. That's WHEST 0.20 phono stage. And the digital source is a Luxman DA06 DAC, a Sony XA9000 ES Super Audio CD player, and also I'm using a Sony HAP Z1ES. That's my high-res player and streamer, and because I'm going to use a high-res file as part of this test, or comparison, I should say. Now I'm going to show you the sources that I'm using, and I'll get to the results. First, this is the Sony Super Audio CD version of Sketches of Spain. This is a Sony Legacy version of Sketches of Spain. Now, I'm also using a high-res file that I downloaded from HD Tracks. I guess it was probably a year or 2 ago. This is an 88.2 kilohertz 24-bit high-res file. And that's going to be played through my Sony HAP Z1ES. Now, the analog sources is this Sony, I'm keeping this a wrapper because I don't want dust on it, is this Sony 2i pressing of the record. Also, actually it's not Sony, it's Columbia, I'm sorry, a Columbia 2i pressing of the record. This Columbia 6i stereo pressing of the record in its original jacket. And this issue here was issued in the either late 80s or 90s. I forgot when I bought it, but I bought this brand new. And it says here this was digitally remastered directly from the original analog tapes. So that's going to be part of the equation as well. I did the same thing with my Dave Brubeck comparison. I had one of these type of issues in that comparison. And you can see that video if you like in my archives. But basically I'm listening for things I'm listening to are, you know, depth, detail, dimension, soundstage, how instruments are placed in a 3D soundstage, how well I can hear Miles Davis in the center of the soundstage. For example, I have some examples written down here. For example, in the pan piper, I'm listening for the definition of Miles Davis' trumpet in the center of the soundstage. And later on in that song, maybe halfway through, I forgot where it is. It's probably halfway through the song. Jimmy Cobb plays the drums in a very subtle way, a cool but subtle way. And I'm listening for the detail of his drums and how, you know how subtle and that sounds, and how in the detail of that his subtle drumming in that song. And this is Willow the Wisp. I'm listening again for the detail of Miles Davis' trumpet near the center of the soundstage. I'm looking for placement, the sound of his trumpet, and also near the center of the soundstage, where Miles plays, and also the percussion in the left speaker and the great fullness of the orchestra. I'm listening. I had to pick out certain parts of certain songs and concentrate on those to really, discern some differences between some of these sources. And also on the digital sources, they were so close that I had to revert to using headphones to really tell the difference between one or the other. I'm talking mainly the two CD sources. So I will get to my ranking. This is going to be my least favorite first to the best. Now, the least is this digitally remastered directly from the original analog tapes that I think came out in the late 80s, early 90s. And I assume this is probably some of the earlier days of digital. And it simply does not sound good. It has very little detail. The depth of dimension, the soundstage is kind of blurry and muddy compared to some of these other sources. So I definitely don't recommend this one. And if you do have this one, and this is all you have, I will probably seek out maybe a good CD, SAC, or another a better analog pressing than that one, because that doesn't sound good at all, at least not to me. Now, this one here, this Sony Legacy, so that is in 6th place. This is in 5th. But however, the Sony Legacy and the SACD are really like, it's almost like a tie. It's that close. I really had to listen on earphones to really examine the nuances of the differences. But if I would choose between the two, the SACD gets a slight edge over the Sony Legacy edition. One of my viewers in one of his comments mentioned some of the Sony Legacy CDs and how great they are. So I listened to this very closely, and I think he's right. At least this version of the Sony Legacy series, Sketches of Spain, actually sounds pretty good. And it's very close to the SACD, but I would give the SACD the slightest of edges. Now coming next is the 88.2 kilohertz 24-bit high-res file that I got from HD Tracks a couple of years ago. And like I said, I played that through my Sony HAP Z1ES. Now I output that to my Luxman DA06 DAC. And it sounds a little bit better than these two CD and SACD sources to my ears. The high-res file sounds better. It's a little bit tad more detail, and it just, the depth and dimension of the details is a bit better than the CD sources to my ears on my equipment. Coming in next, I guess first and second, and this was close too, these two analog sources. is the Columbia 2i. This comes in second. This sounds fabulous. It's amazing. You know, it's a jump up from the digital sources on my system. You know, the detail and the dimension and is just so much greater. And coming in first, just a tiniest step above the Columbia 2i is the Columbia 6i. That comes in first, and that's a tad better, not by much. I mean, it's almost like they're 1A and 1B, the 6i and the 2i. At least the pressings I have. You know, some of you may have pressings closer to the original master tape than these pressings I have, but I would take the Columbia 6i in first place. I also have, this is a Columbia 6i mono. Now this was not part of the test because these are stereo sources, but the mono sounds fabulous. For those of you who are into mono, that sounds really good. I don't have the proper cartridge to properly play a mono record because I have a stereo cartridge. Next year I plan to get a good mono cartridge and see how real good that bad boy really sounds. But I bet you it sounds fabulous, the mono 6i. But in conclusion, in first is the Columbia 6i, the Columbia 2i, first and second. And third, the HD Tracks 88.2 24-bit high res. Coming in after that is the Sony Legacy. No, I'm sorry, the SACD. Then the Sony Legacy is next. And like I said, these are almost virtually tied. It's that close. But I would give the SACD the slightest of the edge because it has a little bit more depth, dimension, and detail. Just a little bit more. And coming in last place, this one. Stay away from this one. Those are my listening. That's my listening experience. What's yours? Because I know these things are system dependent, system setup dependent. If you have a higher end system, your system might reveal different results than mine. I'll leave my system tour in the link to it in the description below for those of you who hadn't seen it. But your system setup might be better than mine. Your system might be better than mine. So your results might yield, you know, some differences than mine. But yeah, so just leave your comments in the comment section below. And it's cool doing this little listening test. But anyway, God bless, love, and peace to all.